Got it. We need to hit that. Got it.
Go ahead when you want, Jackie.
Okay, do I have any apologies? Oh, Amanda's going to be late. She'll be joining the meeting as soon as she can get here. Is there any others? No? Anyone from the public here today?
Yes.
Oh, Rick, but you're not talking in this part.
No.
Okay. I've got an email here from Sean Norman that I'd like to read out. Hello, Twizel Community Board members. Point 1. I talked to 2 gentlemen who were looking at proposed line of a zigzag ramp from the car park to the MDC Info Centre. They suggested I talk to you. My concern is that much of the tussock and beech trees on that bank will be destroyed. Please make every effort to retain our high country look. Whether you approve, please make sure that it does not settle on flat grass that needs watering and mowing. Oh, whatever you approve, please make sure that it does not include glass that needs watering and mowing throughout the summer. Twizel Walkway, a yellow and black sign has been removed from its position at the foot of Man-Made Hill opposite the end of Northwest Arch. The post is still there, so it should be an easy job to replace the missing sign. The junction of Mac Smith Drive and Oslo Road is dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists to cross. A cyclist slow sign is needed to warn motorists coming up the hill. May I congratulate the council on the excellent white paths which are popular and well used by walkers and cyclists. Thank you for your attention, Sean Norman. Okay. Anything else from the public? Nope. Okay, any declarations of interest? Okay, let's have a look at the minutes of the meeting and see if we want to confirm them.
I move that they be confirmed, Jackie.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay. So the community board financial report. That looks really good, and it's nice to see a Whitestone contracting donation in there. I see that a new financial year, the amount that's in there is greater than last year's amount. Seems to go up and down like a yo-yo. Is anyone, how does that settle that amount?
Through you, Madam Chair, that might be me budgeting what I thought was needed and then adjusting that as I've learned more. And when I first did the budget, so I hadn't quite figured out that was actually your budget, if you like. But I'm getting that figured out now.
So that 25,000 is gone into our budget.
Yeah.
So we've got $53,201.58 with a $10,000 allocated to Man-Made Hill, of which $3,515.42 has been spent. Correct?
Yeah, I think so. The carry forward was obviously the balance left over, and I was sort of looking at what had been spent the previous year and kind of what I was thinking needed to do. And yeah, I just thought the 25k looked about right, but as I say, it was a little bit before I sort of understood all that fully. Yeah.
Okay, with that planting on Man-Made Hill, so that $3,515.42 is what it costs to put those 100 trees or whatever it is in there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the clearance and yeah, site prep and buying the plants and planting them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Okay, has anyone got anything else to discuss about the financial report? No. So where we're sitting right now is we've got 53,000 plus a little bit to work with, plus the grant allocation is 13 in there. That's including the chipper. Necessarily know that needs to be in that one, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all there. Okay, so I'll move that we receive this report.
I'll second it.
In favour?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, the Twizel Community Board General Update.
Madam Chair, if you take the report as read, just run through a few little things in there. The upgrade project contract's been let, and we've just been working through the last details around that, which when I wrote, things have moved on a bit since I wrote this report. Unfortunately, with regard to using the TPDA office, we ran into a complication there around COVID vaccine passes and them having a different policy to what council has in terms of people being required to come into our service post office agency needing a vaccine pass. So had to pull the pin on that. We're back to our sort of plan A, which was to get Portacom in, and so we're just organising that at the moment, hoping work will start, still aiming for around March 15th, so just a week or so away. See sort of fencing and work start on that site fairly soon. We've also been looking at a bit of an issue concern we had around the safety of the kind of verandas between the council kind of veranda ramp and where it joins the shops. There's a gabled section, so we're actually going to take that down, and then we'll probably look at a plan. One of the engineers thinks he can do a little cantilever canopy to provide shelter over that area in the future, but we just need to work through what they come up with there. Any questions on that project at this stage?
I just.
Brian, do you?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you go, Jackie.
I was just going to say, I think we need to be mindful of the points that Sean Norman made about, or maybe not so much the tussocks, because we know they grow quite well here, but those beech trees out there.
Yes, unfortunately, there's one quite large beech tree right on the corner of the curb, which we'll have to remove, and we sort of discuss whether that's worth trying to transplant. I've got my doubts whether it'll transplant successfully. Might be worth a go, save sort of losing it. It's a little bit labour intensive to shift them. Other than that, the tussocks can be replanted easily enough. They can be dug out, set aside, and then replanted, and they tend to tolerate that all right. But yeah, it's a shame to lose some of those beeches, but
well, it's just one, isn't
many
it?
ways around that.
Just one beech tree.
There's certainly one, I'm sure. I'm not sure about the others. But yeah, if they're in the line of where the path's designed to go, they're too close, they'll have to come out. As I say, we might have a go at relocating them somewhere else.
Well, let's say we will try and relocate them, and if we don't, we'll replace them.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's easy enough to replace them. Yeah. Yeah, it's just losing semi-mature ones that got established like that is a shame, but price of progress, unfortunately. Yeah.
Brian, do you have a date for the removal of that sort of, don't know what you call it, where it joins up to the veranda, where hydro is?
Probably they'll do that quite early in the process, so in the next couple of weeks.
And hydro are aware?
Possibly not yet. It's all that only meeting sort of decided that on Friday, so sort of working through consultation. We've done some consultation, the works are due to go ahead.
Yeah, I would just consider them a key stakeholder, given it's their veranda that it abuts up to. So if you could let them know as soon as possible.
Yeah, it'll sort of reduce the whole risk we've got around that whole veranda situation in that particular corner as well. By taking that weight off it will help. So
yes, definitely, but just good to let them know.
Certainly, yeah.
Ryan, can I ask a question just in terms of the Twizel office and the service centre access upgrade? Just checking that there's been liaison with Barbara, that she's aware, and I know there was a bit of, I know there was discussion that you couldn't use the TPDA office, and you're looking at an alternative Portacom kind of availability, but I guess we just need to make sure that if they do relocate there, what's relocating then, that all the systems are available and that's adequately communicated within the finance department.
Yeah, I've had early discussions with Barbara some months ago about all the various options, and certainly we're at Portacom. Just unfortunately, Barbara's been away the last couple of weeks, so I've had a little bit of a breakdown in communication, and once we've finally got the contract led, it all starts happening quite quickly.
Yep.
But yeah,
I
we
guess the
believe we
only
can do that. Yep.
The only other question is systems. Is Chris aware of all of this? And if we do transition over, how will the systems transition over?
We'll just need to look at a Wi-Fi extender is what we're thinking will work, and it'll just need a power hookup. The Wi-Fi extender should work. They'll probably still get actually Wi-Fi as it is out there, but we'll need to certainly address that. Yeah, and that was one of the issues with the event centre option, was why the internet connection there was still hasn't quite arrived, which we might have hoped. So yeah.
How long do you expect the works commence on the 15th, and they'll be, so it's virtually a whole month that they'll be operating out of the
it was sort of about 3 weeks. We're hopeful is the plan. But yeah, it might extend into a month.
Whereabouts is the Porticon going?
It's on the sort of grass area, I want to call behind the office. I think it used to be where the old Radio Shack was.
Oh, yeah. Eileen, Amanda's joined the meeting now. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Okay, is everyone happy with that? Okay, can we move on to the next item?
Well, just an update on the O'Hare Road Reserve Development. We've Tom was just preparing some documentation for that to go on Let's Talk, which should, if it's not on today, will be out for the next couple of days. We'll have that out for sort of community feedback for a couple of weeks or so, and then come back to you the next meeting with the results of that feedback and any amendments we might want to make.
Well, that's good, because I've already had a couple of inquiries about it.
Yes, I was thinking this would be a nice, easy, low controversial kind of project, and we're already, it's like, no, we're already somebody doesn't like something or
On
other.
the plan, there must be a half-court basketball.
Yeah.
And I had one person a bit dubious about
Yeah.
that. That's good that that's coming out to comment on, and I directed in that way. I just wasn't sure when it was coming on stream.
And the compactor bin.
Sorry, Brian.
Here will be,
Just reel back to that, because on this it says community feedback February, community consideration of feedback and final approval March the 7th. Are you saying you're asking us for the final approval to put it on Let's Talk today? No, we've already done
no, sorry, I think I might have missed updating one of those dates. So community feedback is now in March, and that actually all those dates need to move a month. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So we'll be talking about the results of that process on Let's Talk at the next meeting in April. Yeah, cool.
Right.
Great. Sorry, Brian.
Thank you, because I had that question as well.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned because
Sorry, I just copy and pasted that from the last meeting and didn't notice that I'd changed the dates.
yeah,
To give you a bit of a timeline, Chris was wanting to leave it up for 4 weeks, so we're probably 4 weeks from now before we'll have final feedback.
if we don't get it to the April meeting, though, there's not another meeting till July.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
Yeah, would mean we won't get it. We won't be able to redo the planting. Then that'll push that back into a sort of a spring planting, which may not be a bad thing. Save us having to rush it, and then spring planting is possibly better than autumn for some of the species, because then you're planting right before the heavy frosts, which sometimes doesn't work.
Yeah, I think planting in spring's probably.
Yeah, it's probably safer.
Yeah. If it's not.
Yeah.
Next to be safe.
Yes, that's a good point. So we won't have that ready, like I say, then we're going to miss a couple of everything always takes longer than I hope it will.
It's cool that you're still so optimistic.
Yeah.
Well,
Over optimistic, you might say.
you know, it'll eventually happens in the car park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's 3, 6,
4 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on to the compactor bin?
A bit of toing and froing on this with staff trying to decide what to do, but in the end we kind of feel this is the best solution to try and keep it. We've had the suppliers doing some work on them, and today just this morning got a new little notice for the label, which will help hopefully alleviate some of our user error issues with the Twizel one. We were And then I just to discover we actually had another wee problem with it that was causing some problems the other week with it not working, but still taking people's money, which they don't like much. So yeah, I think we'll persevere with it for a few more months, and then if we do want to keep it, it's working reliably, we'll look to buy it rather than rent it, which is what strikes us as being very expensive. But we basically buy it for the cost of 1 year's rental. Well, that does mean we have to cover the maintenance, but it's generally not too much.
Put that money
I know you were keen on extending the transfer station hours, and Angie had a bit of a look at that, and sort of it's not overly expensive. So I think if you still wanted to pursue that, probably need to think about that as a separate exercise, separate sort of service in a way, in my view. Yeah.
Can I quickly ask a question? If we do purchase the compactor for Twizel, where would that funding come from?
Well, as I say, it's funded, the rental's funded in the maintenance, township maintenance budget. The other option that's come up is there's some more MB funding round, TIF funding round just opened up. And I believe the compactor bins in Tekapo and the Lake Alexandrina huts were purchased from that grant funding, which is why they bought those, but must have had enough funding to buy the one for Twizel, so they just went for the rental option. So we could look at putting in an application for that to buy it. See how we get on. That would help, obviously. Then we'd have a spare 25k for other things.
Are we putting in an application for that MB funding for anything else? And I'm in particular parts for Tussock Bend and the Drive. The continuation.
Yeah, I think we've just started doing a bit of a staff sort of gather up of ideas, then that'll feed through the community board and council. Angela may have some thoughts on that.
We've got a meeting later this week to get all the exec together, so we can just put down all the ideas. We've got a workshop with council scheduled after that to go through the ideas and prioritise that, and we'll also schedule send it through the councillors as through the community boards as well.
Can somebody on your executive take that on our behalf then, because
I'm happy to.
Yep, no.
Well, no, but I'll.
Yeah, because Twizel people are so excited about those parts.
Yes.
It's like a
Madam Chair,
miracle.
I'll take them. One of the things you've got to recognise, this round of TIF, they have actually put a Matariki flavour on it. So there is some criteria in there. If it can be shown to support Matariki, that will be given a higher priority than elsewhere. So we've got a little bit of thinking about how we can put projects into that context, just to make sure that we've got some. But certainly, look, we will put every idea forward. So thanks very much.
I've got a way that can support Matariki to ensure and help our safe cycling and walking in the evening down to the lake where it's nice and clear to watch. It'll combine, so yeah.
We'll certainly be looking for every creativity option we have.
Well, we'll come up with lots for that pathway.
Okay, that's we've sort of gone off track a little bit, but that's great. I think that 2-hour extension on a Sunday morning is still a really good thing to keep.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna, maybe we could do a trial. I'm not sure. It's something to certainly keep in the forefront of our minds. We're sort of going out of the season now, but there's still the next school holidays and Easter and Anzac weekend to go. But yeah, maybe it's something that we could think about doing in the peak times. I don't know.
Angie, got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we could definitely look at it. I guess it would just be us working out internally where that would be funded from.
Right.
But yeah, definitely an option. And like you say, perhaps good for a trial heading back into the busier time.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, see how it goes. Cool. Thanks, Angie. Next item.
Reserve management plans just ticking along. Haven't really got too much more to report on that until we get the draft, which should hopefully be available for your next community board meeting. The event centre, pass that one to David probably.
Yes, we're making good progress on the event centre. If you've been in there, you will see that all the fire cells have been properly jibbed, stopped and painted. We've just had the report back on the ventilation going right through the building. So we are now going away and preparing final designs so that the ventilation not only meets spec, but also is fit for purpose for your cold winter nights and your warm summer evenings. We're also fitting the push bars. You may have seen those being fitted at the moment around all the emergency exits so that any fire people can go out. And we've ordered new doors for the main doors and for the doors into the community centre, and we're just waiting for those deliveries. So I think it's progressing pretty well. As you're aware, we have got a certificate of public use. It excludes at the moment the event centre, the theatre, and we are hoping that with the ventilation we can do a short-term medium fix that gets us to a compliant level, but basically we're looking for a proper repair in the long term. That will just take a little bit longer because of supply chain issues. So all on track. We're fast tracking as fast as we can. So happy to answer any questions.
When you say you're fitting something on the main doors and the doors to the event centre, to me that's the same thing. Do you mean the lounge?
The lounge, yes,
Yeah,
yes, sorry.
okay.
Yep.
And does that mean when you say about the theatre that is it just the circulation of the air that's not? Why is that not a go in there yet?
Yes, it's because of the circulation of the air that basically to meet code, we could meet code with the existing system, but whenever you operate, you'd have to have the big roller doors open, and that's obviously not practicable. So we are looking at a short term that would help circulate the air around so it meets compliance for smaller events, but it wouldn't meet compliance for bigger events. When I say bigger events, bigger in time, not necessarily in numbers. So we could actually then hold events, I think, up to 2 hours. But in actual fact, if you wanted longer events, we would need to upgrade it properly. So we are looking at that system, and that's been designed at this point in time. But obviously, running that with the roller doors up is not practicable in any shape or form.
Cool, thank you.
Move on.
Yep.
The toilets are progressing pretty well. Got resource consent sorted for the Ruatanifu ones, and so again the architects are just progressing through getting set up for that. Pool heating project, the tender assessment was slightly complicated and protracted over that Christmas break period, but we've got a preferred contract, just hopefully finalising the contract this week to get into that in the winter. The wall mural. I thought we had.
Back up. I didn't realise we'd moved on to the pool heating. So the heating systems arrived?
For the pool?
Yeah.
Wouldn't say it's arrived, but the contract is about to be let and it will be installed this winter. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we're definitely going to start next season off with the warm big pool.
June, July.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Yep. Right. Sorry. Wall mural.
Yeah, I think I had thought we largely had this sorted, that we think it's a shared wall, but then Tom had told me after I wrote this that still a little bit of negotiation to do with one of the property owners. Is that right, Tom? Sorry, you're muted now. Yeah.
We're waiting to just hear back from one of the shop owners. So I'm sort of expecting an answer in the next week or so. It sounds like the painter that the TPDA is hoping to use is leaving town in the next couple of months. So they do want to try and speed things along. But yeah, if I don't hear back by this Wednesday, hopefully I'll give them a call and we'll better sort that all out. And then I'm hoping it's going to start work. Well, they'll better start working next month or so.
Ah, so does that mean it's going to start work without us having a look at it?
Well, no, that's what I'm suggesting. So they'd need to come back to you with sort of get approval of what sort of a mock-up of the design they're wanting to put on there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got some ideas of that already, but we would need to yeah, but whether or not you can do that without a formal meeting.
Yeah, I mean, that
Yeah.
could be something.
Sort of approval in principle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the interest of getting things, but definitely want to have a look first.
Can we have a look at that, Tom, then?
Yeah. I'll CC you on once I hear back from them.
Oh,
So
irrigation, done a little bit more work on that to try and identify the sites where we definitely want some water to keep our irrigation gardens and some grass areas going. So I've communicated that back to our water services engineer, so hopefully they'll get those installed. But luckily we've had a pretty wet sort of summer, so it hasn't been too much of an issue where we have got to the cut off. Hopefully that's in hand. I'd still say some of our broad acre irrigation, we're going to need to think harder about that in the future. Because it's probably more efficient ways of doing it compared to what we've been doing in the past, but would require quite a capital investment. So, which is really only spend on sports fields rather than just amenity areas. So, yeah, it's a question whether we really need to keep those areas green. So we had the luxury over the last many years of being able to do that, but I think those times are sort of past a little bit for various reasons.
It does become a fire hazard if it's not green.
there's a couple of considerations, fire hazard, and also when the people of Twizel, and I know it was some time ago, we reluctantly let go of having all the greenways watered, but it was very important for the townsfolk to have the, the places that everyone could see to be green, and that was before we were, the fires. So I think we'll have to tread very carefully with that.
Yeah, you can certainly still keep it cut, which I believe would reduce any fire risks. So it's still going to be short, but
I want it to look nice though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the environmental issue of watering and using treated water to water grass, which is not the most sensible thing to do. So I take our water services engineer his point about you not wanting to use this precious water on our lawns. So we'll just, as I say, we'll need to investigate and look at some options and costs and alternatives of what we want to do.
Well, perhaps we could just leave it to global warming.
Yes. Things will never well. One year will be crispy as, and the next year will be lush and green. So yes.
Yeah, right. But I do think we need to be mindful of what our community wants there.
So next one, some wilding pines removal along Glenrun Road. It's been discussion with the holiday park about removing at least a row along next to their boundary, which is causing the problem. The more I think about it, I think it's most sense to remove the whole block, and then if we're going to do that, then we might as well expand that block really from Nuns Vale kind of down to the end of that block, is and feedback from our forestry contractor where we can hopefully get it done largely for free. Or very more economical, as they prefer to have a larger area rather than a smaller area. It makes it sort of more economical for their setup costs.
The thing is, though, all of that area is not necessarily wilding pines, and some of it was planted there as a windbreak back in the day.
Yeah, of course, and that's that's why it's sort of a bit. It's taken me a while to get over the idea of removing what are mostly effectively pretty good trees and that are a windbreak, but long term, I think we can make a much better outcome. And apart from the fact that they are, the vast majority of the species are wilding pine species. There's a few that we can potentially identify and save, but the bulk of them are wilding pines, unfortunately.
Brian, can I just step in and say that the block from the road to the water reservoir and the cemetery is full of needle blight. There are dead trees still standing in there, and a lot of them are also infected, and in a few years' time they'll all be dead, and that's a huge fire risk.
Were you thinking of going that far? Because it doesn't look like it to me from that plan.
Not initially, but that'll come on the agenda in the next sort of round, really, in the next year or so. Yeah.
Or are you saying, James, that you think it should be on there now?
Well, it is a fire risk. If you have a look at it, you'll see the needle blight through there is spreading rapidly. In the time that I've been here, it's probably tripled in size.
Is that where it goes brown?
Yeah, the trees die.
Yeah, because it's happening along rural Canada as well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it'll clean itself up eventually.
All right, so you're saying it could move down there and affect those areas? We just, that's okay. So what if these trees are removed? Is there a plan to put something else there?
Well, that's the next step. That's what I say. I come back to you with a landscape plan for amenity tree planting. We'd look plan to do differently.
Has the holiday park been consulted on the removal of all of them?
So I've left her, actually haven't talked to her again, but we certainly talked about that as an option early on when I first talked to her, and she wasn't opposed to that idea. I was just a bit reluctant to do it because I thought it'd open it up too much and create shelter, but I think she'd be quite happy with that. But I've left her a message earlier in the week, but she hasn't called me back, just to say that's what I was planning to do. So she hasn't been jumping up and down saying, no, don't do that. So I think they'll be reasonably happy with that idea as well.
It's going to really open
More problems than they save in terms of shelter.
And the other point is, how are they going to leave this when it's done? Because most of the removal of trees around here has been really disappointing in the state that it's been left in.
Yeah, there's two options. Either we've got to remove the stumps as part of the process, but the trouble is removing the stumps, we've got to put them somewhere, which is problematic. The other option is we get the large stump grinders in and just grind out the stumps, and that generates a nice bit of mulch to plant into, and then level out and plant it and grass it. So yeah, there's a bit of tidy up work to do as well. That's probably where our costs come in. Yeah, but definitely don't just want to leave stumps and things there. That I tend to agree that that has been the practice in the past, which isn't great.
Yeah, well, I'd prefer to see the trees that aren't wilding pines to be left there, but other people feel about that.
Yes, we should still be able to, if there is a few, I think it's ponderosa that are in there that we can try and save. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So single men's hut and workers' house proposed to be located on council land.
So I haven't got too much further with that, so I'm not sure if David's got anything more he can update you on with the sort of priorities we have with projects on the go at the moment. Drop you in it, David.
Well, it's more the single men's hut we're talking about, because Rick's going to talk to us about the workers' house in the next thing. But how have we gotten along with that single men's hut thing?
Not far, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry, I haven't done anything about it. We need to just check that the single man huts are appropriate on that piece of land. That was all we were going to check, weren't we, Brian?
Yeah, it was just to double check what the property status, land status was there, and any zoning, any district plan kind of type issues. But yeah, unfortunately, that one's dropped down the priority list. At the moment.
I thought that you were investigating whether there was anything underneath that area or any pipes or that sort of thing. Not just
that would come into that as well. Yeah. Services,
yeah.
Land contamination.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, how urgent is this for the Heritage Committee?
It's not.
Oh, okay.
The restoration of the hut is going to take some time.
Okay, so it's not urgent. But
No.
That'll be good to have an answer because we'd hate for it to drop off the radar.
I think it will naturally happen as you and David have conversations about the next stage with the workers. I think we should just focus on that one because that was a bit more urgent, and then the singleman's hut will probably work its way through.
Yeah, no, that's cool. As long as you guys are happy with that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Could we have moved to receive that book start?
There's a couple of recommendations I made.
Where are they?
It's a square box.
At the top.
Oh, yeah. So we discussed that, and we're quite happy to have it emailed. And then I guess if it's anyone's got a great issue with it, we'll
Yeah, we don't want to move that it can be done until we have seen.
Yeah.
Because in the past, we've moved in principle to something and then we haven't actually seen before it's gone out.
Yep, you could potentially change the wording of that slightly to not just request, but subject to approval. Have I got that?
Yeah.
Subject to Twizel promotions and being in agreement with that.
Oh, yeah, it is
proposed artwork.
Yeah.
Okay, and so to make that we change, and that the community board supports the removal of the block of wilding pines on the Glen Line Road Reserve from Nunzale to opposite the pump track, and further that a landscape plan be developed for replanting this area with community tree species. But also like to add that we save those trees that are not wilding pines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move all of that.
Yeah.
Second it.
What about, just sorry, about the Twizel Holiday Park being in agreement?
Oh, yes. Yeah, though I feel like Brian's made, but yeah, it would be good to actually talk to a person, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I definitely need to talk to her again, about that.
And what about the guy that actually owns it? Is he happy about it all?
Owns
So
the
now
holiday park?
we're starting to rent, you know, leasees, aren't they? So
I wasn't aware that they was only a leasee, to be honest. But effectively,
well,
it's still.
She's talked to the owner.
What's the name on the title?
We can't assume. We
Well,
need to
no,
make
that's
sure.
true.
we
Yeah.
have that.
What's the name on the title?
It's owned by.
Yeah, I'll have to-
I believe so.
It'd be important, I think it's important we check the name on the title before we approve it. Yeah.
Okay.
The community board supports the removal of the block of wilding pines. So we need to,
subject to neighbours consultation.
I think it'd be nice to know who they are before we actually agree to it. So we make sure that we have checked with the actual owner.
Yep.
Or can we do it via email once we know the information we need?
Well, there's two ways to do it. We could leave it till the next meeting, which is April the 11th, or you could email out that information to us. Can we do it like that, Arlene? Any advice there?
I suggest you word the resolution that allows for any arrangement you want. I'm just sharing my screen so that you can see the resolution. So, and then if you just let me know what you would like to say. So the first one, I've got that the community board approves in principle the painting of a mural on the wall to the east of the marketplace shops facing Two Thumb Drive and subject to approval. Oh, I added that in. That doesn't go there. Subject to the TPDA submitting a mock-up of the proposed artwork for approval by the community board. So this resolution is just approving in principle. You're not approving the mock-up. Okay.
Yeah, we're happy with that one.
Okay, so for the second one here, you support the removal of the block of wilding pines and further that a landscape plan be developed with amenity tree species and that trees that are not wilding pines are retained.
Yeah.
And
then
what else did you want to say?
We just want to make sure that the leasee and the leaseholder,
the landowner
and are in agreement with that.
That the landowner and lease, I might just make that another resolution.
Well, actually, I think we own the land that the trees are on, don't we? It's the
it's adjoining landowners.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adjoining landowners, darling.
But the owner of the land that the Twizel Holiday Park's on.
Okay. Adjoining landowners and leasee of the holiday park, what, be consulted or give approval?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah,
so
the problem
yeah,
is if they've got to give approval, then we become between a little bit of a rock and a hard place.
because if they disagree, then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't approve it, might, you know, maybe, yeah,
But wasn't the reason that we started looking at it, they came to the council?
That's right. That's correct.
So I can't
There's a
see.
couple of other property owners as well, though. So it's still kind of council's decision. So we've just got to consult with them. And if there's significant opposition or other issues, then I can put it on hold and come back to the community board and discuss that.
okay. Yeah,
So
so all affected parties should know what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So should the wording be that they are consulted with before the work is carried out?
Yeah.
And then if there are any problems, it can come back.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that?
I think we need to have that wording in the, we need that wording in the motion that if there's problems, they come back to us.
Yeah, it just says before the work is carried out.
Yeah.
Any
Maybe. So
problems,
if
the matter.
somebody, you know, say there's 5 people and 4 of them say that it's fine and one says it, they're not, we'll know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've added that in.
Yeah, that's
Is
fine.
everyone happy with it? I'll move that lot. Do I have a second?
And I'll second that.
All in favour? Aye,
Aye.
again?
Sorry, but because my screen's very small, who seconded that?
Me, Tracy.
Tracy, thank you, Tracy. I'll stop sharing now.
Well, thank you, Eileen.
I think that conclude my bit. Thank you.
Okay.
That concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Brian. So now we'll move on to the general business and councillor update. And we've had an update on the green rubbish bins, but Angie, would you like to tell us where we are with that? Because it's pretty close, isn't it?
Yeah, green bins. They've arrived in the dispatch yard in Temuka as of Friday night. So they're getting all put together with their labels on and they'll be delivered out to properties over the next week or so. So at the moment we're on track to start this on Monday the 21st.
Oh.
COVID depending. Yeah, it's a bit of a nerve-wracking time to start a new service, but yeah, at the moment it all looks good.
Yeah, well, the delay will probably be if all the truck drivers get COVID or something, won't it? It'll be outside of our control.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some delays popping up around the country with staff shortages in terms of waste services, but at the moment we've got some fairly good coverage. We've got 4 drivers in the Mackenzie, so we've got some, yeah, bit of contingency built into our system at the moment, which, yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, oh, this is great news.
Well done, Angie.
Yeah, thank you. It's a happy story. Yay.
Yeah, it's good to have them finally arrive in the district, even though they're not at property yet, but it's, yeah, one step closer.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can almost touch it now.
Yeah.
We can start cutting things down in anticipation.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so now we've got Rick Ramsey from the Twizel Heritage Group that would like to speak about the Twizel Worker House.
Thanks, guys. I think I've just moved into view. Well, if not, you can hear me anyway. I'm not sure how many staff are aware of the project, but I know that everybody around here is, the mayor and a few others. But I just thank you for the opportunity to speak to the project. There are basically 2 things that we require for this project to be completed or to get underway, I should say, and that is basically permission to site it where the preferred site is, which is the old project office site in Wairepo Road. And the second thing is any financial assistance that can be given from those large sums of money that you appear to have stashed in your account. The background, very briefly, was that for some years the community has supported a house or a museum being established, and that came out of a workshop for the public that was held by Twizel Promotions some time back. We never had the wherewithal to be able to do that at the time, so we started out with a heritage trail instead, and upgrading and adding to the machinery display at the front of town, which basically represents the history of renewable energy and the mere fact that Twizel's here. In February, I was made aware that a Reg 130 house in Omaha Crescent might be available to the group, but we had to put in a proposal inside of basically 12 hours. So I put forward that proposal to the lawyers of the owners, and we were successful with that proposal. It was subject to a number of conditions, which included things like removal of asbestos by qualified people, removal and capping of services, and tidy up at the site. In effect, that gave us the house and its garage for no money at all. That proposal was accepted, and we have a small amount of money that's been given, well, not a small amount, enough money has been given to us to actually cover the relocation and removal of the house in section. And we have a number of businesses in Twizel that have already put their hands up and saying, right, we will cap the services, remove the power, clean the section up. And the people who are doing the asbestos removal are doing it basically at the guy's labour's cost and the cost of disposal. The Langs, the house removal company, are doing it basically at 50% of the cost. That cost can be covered by a kind donation by the Hocken family of $7,000, which will actually cover the cost of removal. The basic problem is for us, or question was, so where would it be put, and what is the most appropriate place? And we'd always consider the front of town in the Rec A, and you'll be aware under the planning rules that under Rec A, provision of museums and information centres are a permitted activity. So it was always envisaged that this was the area that these things would be placed. So we have forwarded that application, I guess, for approval for it to be located on that site. The reason that side of the road has been chosen is because there are services on that side, whereas over by the machinery, there is no infrastructural services at all. So what we basically need is either permission to relocate houses to that site and some assistance with funding to do it. Up until now, the Heritage Group has sourced almost all of its funding from Meridian Energy with the Power Up Fund, but we know that we are going to need reasonable amounts of money to actually make sure that it's put in place and then done up to a satisfactory level. We don't have, straight off the bat, use for it or internal use for it other than ideas that have been put forward. For instance, the Picture Museum, location of the Twizel model, the relocation of the historic photos from the community centre and so on. So the next step is we have obtained the support of TPDA, who see this as a project that's something they want to be involved with. And what I'm basically needing, I guess, is A, permission so we can actually shift it and put it somewhere. It can always be uplifted and taken away if nobody likes it. And B, I guess, what requirements are from council in terms of building consent to actually get the thing relocated. We have support from a major building supplier who says he will gather together the contractors and builders in this town to make sure things happen. And our intent would be that we would take the garage off site to a storage area, so we don't have to worry about that in the short term, but we are under a time frame to have this off the site by the end of May. Now, if it all turns to custard, we will have to turn around and pull out of the contract. It's been entered into by individuals, as you can imagine. And this is the only way that we have been able to proceed with other issues in the past, is if we try and get everything lined up beforehand, the opportunity passes. So we seized it. We did have our eye on the 2-bedroom house that is in the Whitestone yard, and I think that is a possibility should Whitestone ever vacate that. That has significant history in that it's a modified house from over Matata. This house is quite a modern house. I'm not sure who the contractor who produced it is, but it is in very good order.
Oh, you don't think it's a De Geest home?
I'm not sure, I'll have to check the records, because not all of them were produced by De Geest.
No.
But it is one of the more modern Reg 130 3-bedroom homes. It has been well maintained, still has the original wallpaper in the master bedroom, it has the original kitchen, it has the original bathroom and laundry, and the intent is that we have an original house that demonstrates what people lived in during the power project days. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Approval to site it. And the second thing would be whether the council would consider a grant of up to $10,000 to assist us with the
council or the community.
Oh, the community board, sorry. Yeah. And I'm open to any questions on behalf of the group. The group operates under the auspices of TPDA, so that gives us our financial status, GST status, and so on.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Sorry, Madam Chair, I was a wee bit late in joining today. Rick, yeah, well done, Rick, and securing something like this, which will be hugely important to future of Twizel and from the museum. I suppose part of it, it's about restoring the history. Initially, I was a wee bit confused over the single man's hut and this house. Are the two going to be kind of located together?
No.
They're not. Okay.
Single men's hut. Do you remember at the last meeting? I think we discussed that. We want the heritage group are hoping to locate that on the grass verge by the driving range by the golf club, which is in proximity to where the single men's camp used to be.
Right.
And
okay, sorry.
This house would like to be, you know, where the musterer's hut is. Then there's a playground in front of it. And then in front of that, there's a great big car park in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, well, we've kind of worked that one out, and Emily's done a good job in liaising with Frank and I think Rick too, over the fact we do have to get a consent, and we still have to have a building consent repiles. The thought was that they didn't want to shift it twice. Initially, it was going to be shifted into Frank's yard as such. But this is now going to be like a double handling. So we've got to put a few things in place to make sure that it's okay if they're going to want to locate it onto that site where it's going to permanently be. So I understand there's a time it's got to be off by the end of May or something, is it, Brett?
Yep. There were two questions there. I don't believe it needs a resource consent simply because it's a permitted activity. No consent required. However, do recognise it needs building consent, and that's where we were going to engage. If we knew from council what spec that would need to be produced at, we would engage a local person who designs foundations for buildings, so that we can make sure that it meets council's requirement.
So because we've shifted it, Rick, does it suddenly jump up in the spec that the house has got to be put on the site?
My understanding is because it is a heritage house and it is not being used as a residential dwelling, that it could be shifted as is, if you like, provided it was properly founded.
We would probably need to get building control to give us an idea of what's required from a building consent point of view. Unfortunately, we do have to tick all the regulatory boxes in those areas. So David, we could probably ask Tina to give us an idea of that.
Yes, we can, and I think we've got to decide what it depends on what the final use is going to be. Obviously, if it's going to be a public building for a museum, for example, it goes through different rules to if it's just going to be there and not open to the public. So basically, there's a number of things that need to be decided. So we could certainly get that listed out, and I'm not sure, is it best to forward it to you, Rick?
Yeah, that would be very helpful, thanks. Yeah, I've been aware of the end use, and that's not something that we can actually figure out straight away. So if we had those options of what they were, because for instance, disabled toilets, rents and all that sort of stuff comes into it. So I am aware of that, so that would be very helpful.
David, the other question I was going to ask, has Erin given any indication from a planning point of view?
No, I haven't got that. And also, I think we need to look at the land. My understanding of the land underneath is that it's freehold. So basically, I just have to need to check that because it's a very, very odd block. Goes right through a whole pile of the trails and things. So we just have to make sure it's not, well, if it is, and it's not necessarily a barrier, but we would need to make sure that it wasn't reserve. And if it was, what is the reserve purpose for? So there's a couple of things we need on title search as well.
I can help you there because you can waste a lot of time looking. There is no reserves under the Reserves Act in Twizel. The land is actually owned by council and is covered under Rma under the district plan. So that actually makes life a lot simpler in terms of the planners looking at it. The title search you can do on ArcGIS and you can see the boundaries, but I would just point out that this location we're looking at is actually what was the front lawn of the project office, not the project office building site in itself, which is useful because the project office building site may well have good old Ministry of Works concrete and various other bits and pieces buried under it.
Just one other question I've got, Rick, too, is, sorry, Madam Chair, it is going to be pretty important to decide what the end use is going to be, and almost going to need that straight away. Otherwise, we can hardly put it there, and then it's going to be a museum, and then we're in the way, council's in the way for it to happen because we didn't know it was going to be one from the beginning.
Yeah, I think there are basically three options that need to be considered, and I'm sure that you can give us the requirements for each. And the first one would be a museum, which is basically static display, where people actually can look inside and view it from outside, and therefore there is no public inside the building itself. Second one would be in terms of the public being able to access parts of the building inside, e.g. the lounge or laundry or whatever. The third one would potentially be that it actually is available for instance, an information centre that is manned by TBDA or some other body. So, yeah, to try and choose that first and best option straight out, we really need to look at what the requirements of those three would be. And then we may have to choose the one that actually fits what we're capable of doing.
Maybe work with option 3.
Sorry, Rick, I just missed the second option. Could you just repeat that?
Second option would be a building that is accessible.
Okay.
E.g., I'm thinking of Mabel Binning Cottage in Fairley, for instance, where you have a historic cottage where people can go in and look around and see what it looks like. But it's not manned, and yeah, it doesn't have services, it doesn't have a toilet, it just is what it is. And then the third one is that there is some use put to it. I mean, my personal preference from experience is that buildings are best if somebody's in them, but we need to know what that would mean in terms of future use.
Rick, could I ask a question as well? Could I just ask in terms of, I suppose it depends on the final use, but it would be good to understand what the maintenance regime and who would look after the building going forward?
Yeah, it's always the curly one. And I don't know that I have a straight answer for you, because if we look at other council-owned property that it has on display and has never looked after it, e.g. the machinery display, which is owned by council, but is actually maintained by the community, I would see this as falling into the same category. It's on council land, and therefore, by virtue of being council land occupied, I believe that it becomes yours, but it would be something that is maintained by the community, just like other similar museums and things are.
It's very exciting for our town.
Yes, it is.
It's very, especially being, something to do in the winter finally.
Yeah, great work on being able to pull it off.
Yeah, well done.
I guess speaking to your ideas, I think your preferred site is a good site for it. And I guess it means if we, our Twizel community will support that.
Yeah.
Everyone's nodding their head, so I'm guessing that we will do that. The other part of was a donation or maybe not a donation, but like if we get behind and support this financially as a project. We've got $53,000 sitting in that account, plus also the grant allocation, but I would sort of favour doing something out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is all that money as well that belongs to Twizel.
What all that money?
from a long time ago. There was money in that Twizel, and it showed up.
Oh, was it? So do we need to move those things, Arlene? I guess we need to move that we support the Twizel Heritage Group putting the working man's house on that area that they identified.
So just, yeah, okay, the community board will probably have to do that, sorry, but I suppose my other concern would be it's going to need to be, well, fenced, or I suppose, or some aesthetic put around it. I don't know if some people are going to object to an old house kind of being put in the entranceway for a start off. I'm just raising it as it may be a concern. Realise that it's not the intention of the project, but is it a concern?
Put a nice sign in front of it.
Well, I think that the machinery's been very well received.
Yes.
Why wouldn't the house be well received?
Okay.
Can
I
I
think
ask a
partial
question?
answer to that, Mr. Mayor, is that the intention would be to fence it with an original Twizel fence, but obviously it would be built in modern materials, and that's the wire and concrete posts, and we can obtain all of those materials. So you can't just go and plonk it there and then not continue with the whole proposition.
That's what I envisioned
Yeah.
as well, that it would be like a Twizel house was back in the day with that fence.
And I have to apologise because we just have not had the time or the opportunity going through all of this process to actually come up with the final, here's what we want to look at. But what I saw happening from this point on is if approval is given, there is the opportunity, because if the garage goes with it, that we then look at the house from Whitestone. We actually develop a small compound, like it's been done at Isaacs and Christchurch, a bit like the collection of old houses that you find at various sites. But it has to be done then with some form of layout and plan. And we don't have that right in front of us now, but that costs money to get somebody to do that professionally. And we think that's what would be another one of the steps to do. And we need some finance to help us do it. When we get it on the site, it'll have to have the piles covered in, and it'll have to be painted and repairs and brought up to make it look pristine, steps put back on, the porch put back on, and things like that. All of that will take a bit of money and effort.
Can I ask a question in terms, Rick, just in terms of Graham's question, do we need to seek any input from the wider community just to make sure that that there's no major issues in terms of placing the house where it should be?
Yeah, that's one of the ways of doing that, I think, would be that if there is publicity given to this, and if approval was given in principle, I think, because that would be sufficient, then you can go out to the community and say plans to locate a heritage house at the front of town. I don't doubt there are going to be people who say, what the hell are you doing there? Yeah. But then there is an awful lot of people that I know from the feedback that we get on the machinery. There are hundreds of people out there who actually come from Twizel or are here who appreciate what is being done to preserve the heritage of the town. So I think on balance, we will actually win the day.
And we've been voted to represent.
I think if Twizel people are not reticent in letting their feelings known, no, we will find, we'll hear.
Would you like to have an interview with the editor of the update?
I think that's a good idea.
But the only other thing I'd say is if they are opposed to it, I'll have Frank to deal with. So.
And I know, like everyone's really excited about this project.
People just buzz about the machinery. So I think this is the next step of excitement level.
So I think first things first is we probably need to get this rolling with, we need to get in touch with Tina, David. As we discussed last week, I think there's a few things that we need to iron out first before we get into the detail, but the big thing is definitely the building consent with Tina, finding out that, and we also need to work with Aaron in terms of the
consent.
Whether a resource consent is required around a museum and welcoming the public in, and working through those three options and finding out those details there before we start talking about. I think the community board has made it clear that they are in support of this. And I think it's important that we keep the momentum going and get these important points clarified.
And I've made a note of that, so I'll come back about building consent, about planning, and obviously, as Rick's outlined, it depends on usage. We need to see whether it aligns with a spatial plan. I would just put it to you that that's the most valuable land of public land, probably in all of Twizel. It is your entrance way, so you can only use it once. It's got to be used right. So again, I'll bring back a report from a planning perspective, from a building consent perspective, that will highlight some of those issues. I don't know, I was trying to dig it up, but my computer won't do it. I don't know what the spatial plan is showing for that area, which we did consult with the community on. I tried to bring it up, but my computer didn't bring it. So I will have a look and I'll come back to you as soon as we can.
The good thing about the machinery and this house is that it can all be moved.
Yeah, I know. I just wonder, Madam Chair, if a concept plan couldn't be sort of put out as to how it's going to look going forward.
Well, there was in that email, Brian, there was sort of a layout on where it would be situated on Wairerepu Road. So
yeah, but it would just look good if it was a bit of a concept drawing of what it's ultimately pictured to be like.
Could we also put some sort of timeline on when we can expect to get this information by? Because we're having to move the house by the end of May, so we need to be getting things in motion fairly soon.
Yeah, we can't let this be.
We can't let this be.
I think it's important that we just keep the lines of communication between David and the Heritage Group rather than.
I just want to make sure that it is happening.
So I understand they're already applying for a building consent, so that's good.
No, well, I'm not, Graham.
No,
not yet.
This conversation.
No, I fully agree that before we go any steps further, we actually have to figure out the building consent issue, because we can't go and put a house on council property without having those things knocked off. But we need to know that sooner than later, because if we're told we can get a building consent, here's what you have to provide, then we know what to go and get and provide. So I'm more than happy to follow council's procedures, as you're well aware. The concept plan is going to be something that we're meeting with TPDA after this meeting, which needs a little bit of finance, hence the reason for it, because we've got no money at the moment other than what we've personally put into it. To actually be able to just show what we think the total proposition could be. Yeah.
So then that may be able to, with those few more details, we'll be able to come back to the 7th of April, 11th of April, and we'll be able to hopefully.
I'd suggest that, and Arlene may be able to help me, but the delegations are probably such that it would have to be approved by council. So you would have to recommend it to council and council would have to approve it. I would just thinking of the community board delegations, that's all.
Yeah, I would agree with you, David. I think it would be something that would have to go up to council.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, that's that we're just throwing our weight behind it. Would it be able to be presented at the next council meeting? When is that?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Is it on the agenda?
It is on the agenda.
It is for tomorrow.
Yeah, but we don't have all the facts with some of the questions that we've actually asked. So we won't be able to give, we may need to bring something back in the following council meeting.
Yeah, I understand that.
I do wonder, whoever, whether council could actually give approval subject to, and then a range of satisfactory compliance with planning, building consent, and that just drives council out and gives us the ability to say, yes, we've only got to keep working through this, and approval in principle is only ever that. So that would be my request if it's possible.
We can certainly take that to council and see what the thoughts are around the table, Rick.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So Arlene, do we have to do anything in terms of moving anything? Is it just okay to say that the Twizel Community Board supports this project? Or do we have to formalise it? That's one part of it.
You can pass a resolution to say that you support it in principle, or that you recommend that council supports it, if you want to. I imagine though, as it's coming back to you, you might want to leave passing a formal resolution until the information comes back to you later.
Okay, cool. So that's one part of it. And what about making a monetary, I don't know, it's a word donation or I don't know, contribution?
As part of our
So like
projects.
it's almost like a joint project, but
Yes, I don't have your finances in front of me. You can always make a contribution from the grants fund. However, if you're looking at the township fund, I suggest you talk to Brian about what money he has committed from that fund into other projects before you allocate any of that money.
they're our projects.
They're our projects, aren't they?
Otherwise, why are we here?
Yes, but no, what I was saying was he may have already committed some of that to things that you've asked for.
Brian.
Yeah, no, I've spent it all already. I'm sorry. It's only the man-made hill which we'd flagged for doing some more planning work on that, so we kind of know what we actually want to do. So there's a bit of money. I suggest, I think it was $5,000. I think that's noted on the report. But that's also, there's still effectively plenty there if to do other things with. Yeah.
Yeah, according to this, there's 53,201.58. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, so we'd like to put $10,000 towards the Twizel Heritage Group for the house.
Okay, I'll put that up on screen. Hang on.
So I'll move that. Is there a second? I'll second that. Is everyone in favour? Yes.
Yes. Emma, Renee? Renee's still there?
Yep, in favour.
Okay, so that's passed. Oh, that's great. Cool.
So I'll just type that up for you. Allocates $10,000 from the township fund to the Twizel Heritage Group towards the relocation of the, what would you call it?
The workers' house?
Workers' house.
Do we need to say in any shape or form that that would be subject to council approving the project?
Yes, that would be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, I also drafted another one above that. I don't know if you can see it, that the Twizel Community Board supports in principle the proposal from the Twizel Heritage Group to site a historic house on the land in front of the musterer's hut. I don't know if you want to pass that one as well.
I think you should also put subject to council approval, because they will recommend to council for approval.
Yes.
The community, yep.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. We just want to,
You were going to say.
yeah, just change this in front of the musterer's hut to help me with that.
Project office lawn.
The old ex-project office lawn.
It was amazing.
The reason
It's
for
like
that is
a
there's an indication it's sitting in front of the
Project office site in Twizel. Okay, on what road is that?
Wairebo.
Okay, so how does that read?
That's beautiful.
And that was, so they were both moved, Jackie? Was it? And who seconded?
Amanda.
Sorry, you cut out then. Who's?
Oh, Amanda.
Thank you. Okay, that's done. Thank you.
Okay, great. Cool, thank you.
Woohoo.
Rick, do you want to hang around for the rest of it or?
I'm happy to.
Okay, cool, right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Great work.
Yeah, you guys are doing an awesome job.
Yeah. Okay, Emily.
I haven't really got a heck of a lot. I feel like we only had a meeting a
We
week
did.
a while ago. So, yeah, I suppose just it's business as usual. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening, especially around Twizel. Brian's busy with some engagement pieces coming up, and I believe the district plan is sort of an annual plan is taking the most time out of the staff at the moment, and everyone's really busy with that. Plus this COVID and how that is treating us all is obviously taking up a lot more time, and it's busy with the staff's time as well. So there isn't anything extra to add, but if anyone has got any questions.
If I could just add to what Emily's saying, just to say, the COVID is we're still continuing to work with South Canterbury DHB. Graham and I were on a call this morning. We're looking, obviously there's 3 testing sites that will be set up, and we're working with the CDHB to see how those will be resourced, to be able to distribute the rapid antigen tests. So that's a bit of a work in progress, and we'll continue to monitor and watch as things evolve. Currently within the Mackenzie district, we have 17 active cases. So, and we can expect that to increase just given the transmissibility of Omicron. In terms of the annual plan, we're very much aligned with the messages that were signalled in the long-term plan. So the numbers that we're looking at are very much like what we had signalled in the long-term plan. When we've got a bit of finality on all of that, we would like to bring that back to the community board and to actively show you what's in there and discuss that further with you. Annual report is progressing well. And just on the Te Monahuna Kyoto project, we're making really, really good progress. We're in the final stages of looking at the tourism scenario for our destination management project, and we'll be looking towards the middle of towards the end of March to select a preferred scenario. We're also starting to commence to work on the key priority projects, and we'll be scheduling a workshop to discuss that so that we can bring that forward. And once we've done that and we've drafted all of that up, we'll come back out and there'll be a second round of engagement. So we'll circulate some dates around that, and there'll be some messaging coming out about that. But just to say that there's been a lot of activity on that project, and I'm really excited to see what some of the projects are that are going to fall out the end of that. So yeah, and just on the operations side, there's been some really good work happening, and maybe David wants to add a bit on some of the water infrastructure projects that have been done through the stimulus funding. So David, I don't know if you want to add anything on there.
I think that'll come up in a late report. I think that's coming to the community board on the engineering part from Joni. Is that correct, Arlene?
Yes, it is. Yep, coming up. We're going to do it next.
Yeah, sorry, my report's coming up, but I didn't specifically address the Three Waters funding projects, except the few that literally wrapped up recently in Twizel. Did you have something more in mind, Angela?
No, I just, on my agenda, there was no report. That's why I mentioned it, sorry.
It was a late item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, just further to Emily's report, I'll just give you a quick update from the governance point of view. The Three Waters thing's still pretty active out there. There's something like, well, this is sort of anti the entities proposed by the government, of which we as Mackenzie Council have joined up. Of the 67 councils, now 30 councils are opposing the entities, not opposing the reform, because that's needed, but opposing the entity that's being pushed onto us by government, because we believe that the assumptions don't stack up. The other thing going on and building momentum is RMA reforms, and Minister Parker is driving this with speed. And so there's quite a bit of development going on in that space at the moment. And the other thing which I think we'll all need to consult on is the future of local governance. And we're having to turn our mind to what we want and local governance in this country. So pretty big work, pretty big stuff, and kind of major changes.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Right, shall we move on to the engineer manager's update? That's you, isn't it, Joni? Do you want to unmute?
Yes, just working my mute buttons. Thank you, Madam Chair. If you'd like to take the report as read, and I can go through the sections of it with you. So we've got, start with Three Waters. Water supply, our standards are being met as you would expect. We have seen less water being used with the rainy weather, less need for irrigation. And here is one of the Three Waters funding projects to mention that the water replacement project in Twizel is complete. I believe there may be a few snag list items. We're waiting on completion, but it's basically done. Wastewater in Twizel, we've got the desludging ponds complete, and stormwater, we've got no activity in that arena at the moment. Working on going to roading, we've got a planned bollard change out, boundary terrace. We don't have any dates for you just yet, but there is but we're doing this in Tekapo as well, and so we're going to be getting a schedule from the contractor Netcon telling us when and where they'll be working. I don't know there are that many bollards in Twizel. I don't think it'll be that.
What is a bollard?
What is a bollard? A bollard is an alternative to street lighting. Dave, would you agree with that?
Yeah, so is there high street lighting in Boundary Terrace and they're lowering it, or no, there are. Oh, they are. So what are we doing to them?
Okay, David, anytime you want to jump in.
Yeah, we're replacing them.
I can tell you what we're doing to them, but yeah, go ahead if you have a good definition of a bollard.
I know what a bollard is. I guess I was asking because I thought, why are we doing anything to them? Because they're pretty new-ish.
Yeah.
As part of the LED upgrades, we are dropping the colour of them. So they're going down to 220Ks as opposed to what they are. We're replacing them with LEDs. It's part of the replacement that was funded by NZTA right through. We've done all the street lights, but we haven't finished all the bollards because the bollards got a little complicated because you can't buy those bollards anymore. So they have to take the top off the old bollard, take it to the shed, fit in the new LED, and then bring it back. So it's a little bit more complicated than us just, we thought we could just buy a new screw-on top, but it's not quite that easy. We've let the contract, so Netcon will be doing it over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think they do that on purpose, so it's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's to fit in with the night sky thing, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. The other project I had on here was a request I got from you through Dave about Christmas decorations. So I actually was able to do this over my Christmas holiday. I needed to drive through the area just because I was new to the area. And so I prepared a little summary of what some of the towns were doing. And then I also just reached out and got some very quick cost estimates of what you guys might want to do in Twizel and the costs that other communities face when they do something like this. I put down the cost of lighted poles, but I'm pretty sure that would go against our dark sky or work there. So they're there just as to round out the field, if you will. I don't think the council would support putting those in place. So I'm not sure where this is going to go. If the community board wants to discuss this now that they have an idea of what these kind of community decorations might cost, and then come back to us with some more direct requests. So I'm a little bit, I'm not sure what to do with my Christmas information.
Tony, thank you so much. Sorry, this has been a bit of miscommunication here. So this was something that I brought up late last year, or maybe it was early this year. So there is a Mistletoe Christmas Committee formed here in Twizel, and they are a committee that is a bit like the Heritage that is formed from the TPDA. And they are actually looking at all the stuff, all the research that you've done is what they've done too. So there's a bit of a double up here. So the reason why it got brought to the community board was just because I was letting them know that this was happening and just to make sure that they were up to speed with what was it. My position on the committee was as sort of the council liaison. So just making sure that there's sort of everyone understands what is happening within the community. So I had asked a few things about, so the Mistletoe Committee is currently working on buying a 6-metre Christmas tree. The examples that you had given, we've been in contact with Waitaki to find out how they had been set up. That was formed through the Lions Group, but Waitaki District Council had supported the Lions Group in that and acquiring those Christmas trees throughout their region. I think Oamaru's got the big one, and then it sort of filters down through Kurau, and the smaller towns have smaller trees, and you can add to them and you can make it bigger as your town grows and as you're able to afford.
What are you thinking of getting?
So we're looking at a 6-metre tree at the moment. They cost $25,000, and we have only a month to get the order underway, and they need a 50% deposit. So a member of the community has actually offered to pay for that, but they are looking to, they are wanting to ask council if there was any contribution that they wanted to do, and there'll be a plaque and things. So this was the conversations that probably we needed take offline, Joni, and work through. I don't know. It sort of just seems a bit, lots of conversations happening at the moment, but we do need to get it underway. The reason why I felt like it was important to bring it to a community board level was because it just, most towns do have quite, a collaborative approach when it comes to Christmas. Mackenzie doesn't, and it's sort of surprising. I suppose we're doing a lot of work through our Mistletoe Committee, but we're happy to share the details and that information so that council then can filter it through the other community boards, and if they wish to form a committee on their own, well, at least the research is done, the artwork has been designed, so we've got an application in for a grant for I call them planners. I don't even know if that's the real thing, but they're not obviously lit up. They're what you've used here as an example, that hang off light bulbs, and have a Christmas message on them. And so I suppose that makes sense. The cost of it is coming up with the design and getting that sorted. So if that design's done and it suits the Mackenzie district, then we could filter that through the other towns if they so wanted to invest in it themselves. So that's really all that is. So
Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if the committee wants to reach out to me. Did you say Mistletoe, the name of it?
That's I probably got that wrong. Yeah, the Mistletoe Christmas Committee.
Oh, yeah. I've got a few questions for that committee. Cool. So that's really cool that you've been so proactive and actually.
Yeah, it just takes a long time.
Where are you thinking of putting it?
Out here in the marketplace.
Yes, where exactly? You know?
That's what I'm not looking up at that. I'm just looking up.
Okay, because that seems to come to community board.
It does, so it's already
not
been,
that I think
some safety things have gone through.
Yeah, and the other thing is like there's money there.
So yeah, it is $25,000, but that is for everything. It comes with the lights, and then there is a builder in town who's going to be building the thing for it to sit on. There's a donation of a 20-foot container for it to be stored in, and someone's got the site that that tree will be located. Wow. Yeah, so every year the committee will build on Christmas. So hopefully one day, if it allows us, we'll be able to have a Santa parade and those kind of things, and we'll slowly build Christmas back up to how it used to be back in the days in Twizel. So we're just bit by bit, but we feel a tree and the flannels are probably a good start this year, and then we'll build on it and have so it's really exciting. There's a really, really good group of people within the community. I think there's about 12 of us all up on this committee. It's a good group of people all rounded, and we've all got our sort of places on it. But yeah, my liaison to the council has become quite confusing, so I apologise.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah. And thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Janie.
Okay, so that's two lots of good news and the town being so proactive and getting stuff done. Very exciting. Okay, community board action list. Okay, so do you want to go through those, Brian? Has he gone home?
Well, can we take the,
Oh, is it you, David? You can do it.
well, the first one's there, the sealing of the long parking bay car park. Can we remove that from the list, Madam Chair?
Yes. It just leads on to the grand opening, doesn't it? Playing music. That's great.
Next one. No one wants to talk about this one.
I do think that we did talk about having a meeting with the school and various groups just to consider what the needs in Twizel were, you know, not just around the library, but around some other options. So we still have to set that meeting up, and we were going to bring that back and try and arrange that meeting so we could get a sense of what those needs were, so we could then see how we move forward on that. But not specifically around the Twizel Youth Centre, but it was more just looking at it in general across what the needs were.
Yep. Cool. So it's still, it's still on the 11th. Yep. Okay. Twizel large machinery display update.
No further action there. Partly waiting on if they got that additional machinery, but I've still got on my list of things to do to go and meet with Rick and sort out the fencing, but it's never quite gets to the top of the list. It doesn't seem to be particular. Nobody's particularly pushing for that to happen.
Yeah, that's fine. What about
list of
the
things to
sign?
do.
Don't we supposed to have a sign there about? Like I just went past you the other day, and this guy was encouraging his daughter to get up on the, which I personally thought such a dad thing to do, but it was great. But have we got that sign there saying, you know?
No, that was sort of part of it, but we've partly been putting off doing any signage because we've got a new signage design just sort of being finalised. We've been working on for some time. It's nearly ready to go. So
if something happens, because we identified it not being a playground, where does it sit with regards?
Council, we still own the liability.
The liability is,
Okay, so that's a work in progress.
So it'd be nice to get something done.
Yeah, Brian, I can't give you an update on when the other two machines will be arriving, but it's likely to be months away. The grader is actually finished and sitting in Christchurch, but we're waiting on the transporter to bring it down. He's doing that on a volunteer basis, so we can't push him and say we want it. So we know that that'll come, but the other piece of equipment, the drag line, was partly rescued last month or the month before, and it is now being shot blasted and painted. So it'll be some time before we get to a position where we've got them all in sight, on site.
Cool, man-made hill.
So we haven't started work on the development plan yet, with a few other projects on the go. This one's just sort of sitting there still to get onto a few months' time, hopefully. I've gone and done some more spraying of the broom that got missed when it was supposed to be done when we first had a go at it. So hopefully your broom will start dying, and any of the wilding pines as well.
Well, I was up there the other day, and there's one of the bits of broom things almost a tree now. So yeah, I'll go and check that again.
Yeah, it was only done recently. It's quite hard to get at being on the steep slope like that especially with a sprayer with a gun from the tanks. You got to sort of drag the hose around, so it's a slightly challenging site to get at, which is part of the reason probably why it didn't get done that well the first time.
So have we, that's come out of our pocket, have we had to pay for that twice then, Brian? Because the first time it wasn't.
Well, we would have only really paid for the time that he spent on it. So they, yes, it would have cost more if he'd spent more time on it than the original bill, but yeah, have changed the contractor. Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, I think Cindy, we've covered that really, haven't we? Oh, has the deep clean been done?
Yes, we had some cleaning. Oh, sorry, Brian.
I know you can carry on.
I was just going to say we had some cleaners come through from Timaru and do a decent sort of deep clean, and now we've got some other cleaners doing regular cleaning.
Oh, that's good. Cool.
Madam Chair, that's just a reporting thing. Is it actually something that needs to be on the action list? We'll be reporting as a part of the project. There's no actual action there. We're obviously doing the work. Shall it come up? Because it will be contained in our normal reports.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, you can take that off as well.
Yeah.
So, Arlene, we'll take this ceiling, yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, and the Twizel Event Centre. What about petition asking for speed reduction on Benno Road?
So that's sitting in with the new, I think, David updated us at the last meeting in regards to this about how there's a whole lot of speed limits and it's all piling into.
Okay, fine.
Because the law changed about how you could alter, is that correct?
It was changing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. We're getting they've got a new system coming through, and we're going to wait for the new system before we put that claim forward or request forward.
It's very much
So you can
easier.
move on with that. Twizel Marketplace upgrade starting in a week or so.
Can I just suggest that we, on that item, maybe it's a case of actually responding back on this. I don't know who raised it, but really to the petitioners and actually just giving them an update on that. And then that would allow us to close the item out.
But I've met with them on site a number of times, Angela, so they know fully where we're at. So I've had face-to-face meetings with them, so they do know where we're at. And I said, look, I'll get back to them as soon. So they're corresponding with me regularly.
Okay.
Should we take that off too then?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it off. And basically, as soon as we get the information, it will have to all come through the community board that would have to make a recommendation to council anyway.
Right, okay, let's take it off. Are we happy to move on now to the next item, everyone? Twizel Marketplace upgrade. No, that's commencing, isn't it?
Brian?
In a similar way, Madam Chair, could probably take that off as well. It's now been actioned effectively, the contract being let, and again, we'll just report on it through my regular report anyway.
Okay. Twizel Working Men's Hut.
Leave that on the list, Madam Chair. We haven't done anything. We will look at that, and I will get someone with property experience to get that back to you. I apologise for that.
But that, as Rick said earlier, that's not our priority at the moment. We're more worried about the house now.
I agree that the house is more urgent at this point in time, but we still need to resolve this one as well.
Thank you.
O'Hare Road Reserve Development. No, that was on the other thing as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of work in progress, so that can stay there if you prefer. Yeah.
Let's talk next. Okay, so that's the Twizel mural, same thing. So we agreed that we can email that out to us. Christmas decorations.
I'd say supporting mistletoe.
Could we take Christmas
Yeah, you can
decorations
take it
off?
off. You can take it off. Johnny, well done.
Yeah. Broken glass and liquor ban.
Yeah, did we find this, we're going to do the stencils for the liquor ban and the marketplace.
I'm probably the best person to talk about that. So yeah, I followed it up last month, and we've actually had the signs already made that are going to go around the township. And I just got an email back about 2 hours ago, finalising a design for the stencil. So I'm sort of expecting maybe a time frame, maybe a month and a half to having those hopefully around the district.
Oh, okay,
Thanks,
cool.
Tom.
What about, can I just throw an idea in here, because we had quite a few bottles actually in bins, which was really good in our neighbourhood this weekend. But if a few ran out of space in their blue bins. Is there any way we can have like, back in the old days, they had the old bottle bank. So somewhere maybe next to the compactor bin by the Mobil, where you could take excess bottles instead of putting them into your yellow or red bins.
There was a good reason you got rid of that though, wasn't there, Angie?
Yeah, there have been a few different, I guess, options for glass sort of in bulk disposal around the township at times, but all of them have led to quite high contamination rates, and we haven't been able to recycle that glass. It is free to drop glass off at the recovery park, and the recovery park. Sorry,
again, it was a Sunday morning situation. People were in an Airbnb, needed to leave. And yeah.
Well, they filled up the blue bin.
They filled up their blue bins. Oh my goodness, it was a great party.
We put some of our excess in our neighbours' bin last week.
We
can also provide a second blue glass crate to properties at no extra charge.
This one is filled too.
Right, yeah.
I suppose it's just that same thing. It's the timing and whatnot. Some people make a big effort to bring it down and put it in the bins here, don't they?
Gee, there's a glass one in Tekapo, wasn't there? That must be right.
There is one, but again, the contamination in that does get a bit problematic at times.
As well, yeah.
We have got glass recycling bins in the marketplace where the glass is. To be fair, I think it's just the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not supposed to put domestic rubbish in. But it's getting like that. Yeah. And you can ask for another blue bin, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make that known. Or is it not worth? Is that not something you want to make known?
No, it's quite well known. It's quite popular. Yeah.
Okay.
Normally it comes through by a phone call to the customer services team, and they just let people know we can organise a second blue glass crate.
And if it's an Airbnb property, it's probably the property owner or the property management company's prerogative to sort of sort that out rather than the guest.
Yeah, they probably take care of it in the clean up anyway if there's surplus.
Yeah.
They'll be part of it. Good point. Cool, okay, golf club rubbish disposal.
Yeah, Angie rang me a few weeks ago and I gave her Amanda Tippin's number to speak to. But Amanda didn't hear from you, Angie. So can we set up a meeting? I've got a golf club committee meeting this Sunday. And if we can set up a meeting after that to discuss further.
Yeah, now I have looked into a few different funding options where the golf club may be able to get funding for different types of bins that they could put throughout the golf course. But yeah, I haven't been able to touch base with Amanda yet. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, so we'll catch up and we can go through that. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's everything. Oh, just getting back to Sean Norman's public forum thing, the Twizel walkway AA yellow and black sign that has been removed from the position at the foot of Man-Made Hill. Is that something you can, who's doing the signs? Brian.
Madam Chair, I can make all of Sean's requests into service requests and put them through the service request system if that's helpful.
Oh, can you? That'd be great. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay. So
Through Madam Chair, I could just comment. I've been aware of the signage one because that has been raised by service request by either Sean or someone else. But again, we've been reluctant to spend money on replacing or new sign until we get our new sign design system ready to go, which hopefully won't be far away now. And then we can start work on some new signage and identify any of these outstanding service requests. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, do you know if there's been a service request for this third point at the junction of Max Smith Drive and Oslo Road?
So
There is a slow.
There isn't when you're coming up from the road. There isn't. You just people staying up there.
Yes. So again, we're already addressing that, and Tom's been working with Roading to organise some little giveaway signs to put on the cycle on the path effectively.
Yeah, so it's not so much on the cycling path, Brian, it's more the cars coming up Max Smith Drive from the rowing and they're heading up the hill sort of east. And they come around the corner, and although it's give way, you sort of, it's a blind corner, so you sort of race around there. So I think what Sean's trying to say is that can we have a sign down as you're heading up that rise to say, careful pedestrian cycling crossing up ahead, take care.
Okay.
I think that's more what that's around.
Okay.
It is quite
probably a good
quite
suggestion.
frightening part to cross because you can't see cars come flying up there, and they are going 80k, so it is quite a so you've kind of got to stop and you've got to listen to see if you can listen to see if you can hear a car.
I wonder if we could shut that little road off, even though it's really handy, because it is being abused.
Yeah, it's pretty frightening.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what
Emily, I'll get Scott to talk to you about it. I think it's probably a roading matter more than a community service. So we'll make sure it's the right side. And I don't know if Joni's still on there. Can you get Scott to talk to Emily?
Happy to do that. Thank you.
Arlene, will you address those points with Sean in an email then, or is that something you would do?
Yes, I'll respond to him and let him know how the meeting's gone.
Cool, thank you very much. Has anyone got anything else? Okay, meeting closed. 4:47.